I had an epiphany a few weeks back. Well, it was a few epiphanies, but they kind of are similar. So, anyway, the first had to do with a relationship that I have with a very dear friend of mine. It's not you, sorry.
No offense.
Yeah, sorry. But anyway, so just when I discovered what was wrong, in quote marks, about that relationship, right? I had a very similar, yet kind of different realization about my relationship with my son.
Oh, okay. Now that's interesting. Okay, say more, say more.
I will say more, but let me just introduce this first and just mention that this is Life in the Grey, a Moms at the Table podcast where we explore the psychological factors that shape our relationships, be that as a parent, partner, or peer. I'm Melody, and I work in the parenting arena through Moms at the Table to empower and engage moms.
And I'm Faith. I have a background in psychology, but I'm not a psychologist. My perspectives come from a lifetime of wrestling with the gray, that messy, gritty in betweens. And I have learned, I've survived, and I'm still learning to hold space for nuance, for tension, for grace.
So back to my epiphanies, right? You know the phrase "it's not you, it's me" that we hear a lot in our teenage years when we are breaking up with people, or people are breaking up with us. So
Yeah,
it's
I
a
hate
bit,
that phrase.
but fortunately, it's actually a bit like that. What my epiphany is actually related to that. And
Okay.
I guess before I say that, I want to emphasize that what I'm trying to say is that this is not about fault finding because, we've spent many, many years, many, many months. And what we're trying to do is to practice being compassionate to ourselves, right? So saying it's not you, it's me, it's not about fault finding. But sometimes I just feel like in this epiphany, when things go wrong with our relationships with people, it may sometimes be us, not because it's our fault, but because of our expectations, so to speak.
Okay. All right.
Let me explain further.
Okay.
And let's use these two examples, right? So
Mm.
with my friend, that's not you.
Thanks for emphasizing that again.
Yeah, I know, right? I just like to emphasize the fact that I know I don't have just one friend, although sometimes it feels like that. Anyway,
And with that
so
friend, the epiphany.
yeah, that friend that's not you. Yeah, okay.
We need to get past this.
I find that I kind of have like a love-hate relationship with her, right? In the sense that I love her dearly. She is very important in my life, and she is the most beautiful, caring, thoughtful, self-sacrificing person that you can ever meet. And you think that that would mean that we have the best relationship, right? The problem is there are things about this friend that irritates me as well. I'm not going to list all of them actually. I'm not going to list any of them. But I think you can relate to, you really like someone, but sometimes what they do or who they are kind of irritates you as well. Anyway, recently I found myself we've had a lot of interactions, and I found myself becoming very short with this friend. The things that were irritating were really getting to me. But it was actually at that point of time because I was wrestling with it, right? I'm like, I want to have a relationship with you, so I don't want to be short with you. I was spending some time reflecting, and that's when I had this epiphany. My friend actually isn't, my friend isn't deliberately being irritating. In fact, what some of the things that I find irritating, right? Other people don't have a problem with it. And that's when it didn't trigger, like it hit me. It's like, well, actually, I think it's more like I need to work on my own healing, so to speak. So what my friend is doing isn't that it's irritating me. Well, it is irritating me, but it's only because it's triggering me because of my past experiences. And so I'm interpreting it in a way that's causing me to react negatively. So it's not her, it's me.
Hmm.
And the same with my son as well. So the majority of the time, I mean, it happens all the time. But when I lose it with him and I get annoyed with him, right? It's it doesn't really have 100% got to do with him doing the wrong thing. Yes, he is doing something that I perceive that it's wrong, right? He is not doing what I've asked him to do. He's reacting badly to something that I told him, or he's not being quiet when I'm on the phone. But that's also because I expect something from him. And depending on what it is, he's not a robot, right? Like, it's either he needs, or he wants, or he should exert some autonomy, or it's not even developmentally appropriate for him to behave a certain way. Otherwise, it's also because I have some kind of external stressor that doesn't have anything to do with him. I'm worried, I'm stressed about something, I'm concerned about something else, and well, what he's done just happens to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. I'm not trying to say that the other person isn't wrong, or that if there's anything that goes wrong in our relationship, right? It's that we're the only ones at fault. I'm the only one at fault. But I find it easier to stay calm and not be irritated when I realize that my expectations may be too high or unfair. Obviously, it's not that we give everyone a free pass. We should still expect the best from someone. And I think it's very healthy to still explore expectations in our relationships. But perhaps that conversation should be had when emotions are not running that high.
I mean, it sounds to me like you've just uncovered this space in between someone's action and then your reaction. There is this space
Yep.
where this in between, right? Where you're figuring out, is my feeling, my reaction coming from a wound that needs to be healed or needs to be dealt with, right? Or is it a warning? Like there is a boundary that's being crossed, or there is a pattern that needs to be addressed because this is going to be a problem and it's a present issue
Yep.
that needs to be addressed, right? So is it a wound? Is it a warning? And sometimes it could be a little mix of both also. Like we like to say column A, column B, right? It's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Yes, it's the gray, right? But what's really driving it? Because it might be a mix of both, but there's usually one that's a little bit stronger driver than the other,
And I
right?
guess, yeah, it feels like right now to me, and that's why there's a whole, it's not you, it's me, right? It's that warning that you just used. Oh no, wait, the wound driver is
Right.
stronger, I find, for my
Right.
relationship.
And so you're using this opportunity to find out, wait, what's happening? And you're uncovering that. And I think that's a really important insight because, yes, sometimes the tensions in our relationships are not about just what the other person did, but it's how we interpret it in the lens of our past, of our experiences, and then what meaning we give to that moment. And the meaning that we give we pull from our experiences,
Yeah.
from our, right? Yeah, our past. And having that kind of perspective can be powerful. And I'm in no way trying to throw cold water on you right now.
Okay.
Let me explain this in this way. When I hear your stories, right, I notice that there are a few things that are already in place. Number one,
Yep.
your relationship is already, you consider it already to be a safe and supportive relationship, right? Number two, there is intentional care. I mean, you're telling me about this friend, and you know that this person already
Yep.
comes from a space where they're very caring, they're very intentional in their care, they're mindful about it, right? Even when it's messy, both of you are trying to still
Yep.
honor the relationship. You're not trying to be right. You're trying to prioritize a relationship rather than trying to say, I want to be right. And three, and this is the most important one of all, even if the first two aren't there, you have done your inner work. You know who you are, you know
Mm.
what you need, you know
Yep. Yep.
what
Yep.
safety looks like in your body, right? And even if you don't know it all at this moment yet, you are at least, you at least have most of the information, or at least you're in a space and
Yeah.
in that frame of mind to say, I want to have this information. But here's the thing, not everyone starts from that kind of dynamic. Some of us formed our closest relationships when we were still wounded, which means that the dynamics that we started with then might not be healthy now,
Yeah.
because when we first started, we chose not from a place of wholeness. So we may not be in a space now where we have healthy relationships, or even where the relationship is with someone who is intentionally caring. I mean, like, I give you an example. Take someone who maybe grew up feeling like her voice never mattered. Maybe she learned to keep the peace, to wait for instructions, to be agreeable, just so she wouldn't rock the boat. Then she enters into a relationship. She might be drawn to someone who always has a plan, who takes charge, who tells her what to do, because it's familiar, right? It's familiarity, the structure there, and it's comforting to her. Familiarity is comforting. And when this person does all of that, it might be
Yeah.
column A out of love, but also column B a little bit out of control. We don't know, right? Column A, column B. And then as she grows and begins to heal, maybe she finds her own voice. And then suddenly that dynamic isn't the same anymore. There's something that's different. It shifts. And then suddenly she's saying, hey, you know what? I actually don't want to spend every Saturday night just doing what you want. I want to do something that I want. Now, if she happens to be with someone who is healthy, right? Even though she may have chosen from a place of not wholeness, but at this point he's healthier, and then he might adjust, he might listen. But say she's not. She's with someone who liked her better when she stayed small, when she stayed shrunk. Now she's the problem, because he's gonna say, you changed. What's wrong with you? So what do you think is gonna happen if she starts asking, hey, maybe the problem
Oh,
is not about
yes.
him, it's about me. So what kind of answer is she gonna get? Right? And that's
Yeah.
what I mean. That's what I mean when I say the caveat is we have to do our inner work first. We don't need to wait till someone else is healthy. We can do. So I mentioned the three things just now that we talked about, right? I said the first two is like, oh, you mentioned about the healthy dynamic, about the person also wanting health, from wanting to advocate for the relationship. But even if those two are not there, the most important thing is, have we done our inner work? Did we find our voice? Do we know what safety looks like within us? And when we do our inner work, then when we ask the question, what's mine and what's not mine? Because it takes discernment to figure out what's mine to carry, but it also takes discernment and strength and compassion and lots of care to find out what's also not mine to carry.
I came with the presumption and the assumption that, if you're trying to have a good relationship with someone, that the other person wants that as well. But you're right, that may not be true.
Yeah, we don't always choose from a place of wholeness when we first started.
Yeah, we can't change the other person, but the power is, and it's not like it's so easy. I recognize that. But the power is that we can change ourselves. And so is that whether we grow, whether we heal. And for me, with the caveat in place, for me, it's just for me to change how I view the other person. When it's a safe relationship, when I'm confident in who I am, it's not you, it's me, reminds me to change how I view the other person or what I expect from the other person. But yes, you're right. With that in mind as well, what we can change about ourselves is also the distance we have with that person.
Mm.
So by that I mean how close we want to be that person, we want to be to that person, or how close we let that person in our lives. It's tricky. It's going to be tricky because that person could already be close.
It's hard, but you see, that's the thing. When you know who you are, when you've done the inner work, when you can ground in discernment, in healing, a deep sense of self, when you know who you are, when you know what you need, when you know what safety feels like, then this kind of introspection can bring clarity, can bring more clarity, not confusion, right?
That's true. Yeah.
Then the self awareness does not become self-blame,
Yes. Yes.
right? Or like, oh, I'm so aware, I'm introspective, and it's all just I'm bad, I'm unworthy, it's all my fault. And it's like, whoa, okay, let's pause there. Where is all of that coming from, right?
It's a bit like, yeah, because like, I'm trying to say that it's not you, it's me, right? But yet at the same time, I think it might sound like, oh, if it's not you, it's me, it means that the other person is wrong. Anything that
Mm.
goes wrong in the relationship is because I'm the only one at fault. And I know it probably sounds like that. But it's interesting, it was a conversation that I had with someone else, right? And I think what I want this whole it's not you, it's me to spur, right? It's not so much there's a difference between guilt and shame, correct? So guilt in a way it's okay in a way. So it's not you, it's me. So I feel guilty because my expectations have been too high or my expectations have been unfair. So I'm feeling guilty and I'm trying to better myself and I'm trying to improve myself as well as improve the relationship. I'm not feeling shame in that. I'm not feeling shame as in it's my fault, I'm to blame, I'm a terrible person. Because when I start feeling shame, I don't have any motivation to keep going because I just think that I'm a worthless human being.
You can also feel so guilty that it suddenly morphs into shame. It just, yeah, that happens.
But yeah, I guess if we just focus on the doing, the action, and we focus on the action. We try not to make it as a personal value. And if we focus on the fact that there needs to be some kind of healing, there needs to be some kind of confidence, and we need to recognize what is healthy, what is unhealthy, I guess it's not you, it's me can still kind of work because, like for me, coming from all of that, right, I find it easier to stay calm. I find it
Mhm.
easier not to lose my temper. It doesn't mean that I don't get it wrong. I will still snap. I will still get annoyed. I will still get irritated. But it gives me this ability to pause as well and ask myself, what is triggering me? And it's because yes, it is because of what they said that's done. But it's probably because of some underlying issue that I've got as well.
Mm. It's not, you're not made of stone. Let's put it this way, right? Being able to pause doesn't mean that you won't also have feelings. You have feelings. The question is just being able to pause just lets you decide. Let's say you have a moment of decision to say, what are you going to do about these feelings? And that's just it. What are you going to do about it? Right? That's all. And I think to to give you an example of how it's not them, it's not you, it's me played out for me, right? And I think to underscore what you're trying to say here, right? About how it's really about personal ownership. And again, I caveat this that I'm in a very different space now than where I was even a year ago, right? A very different headspace, very different headspace. And so when I approach this statement, this pause, and when I approach this statement of, hey, what's them, what's me now? What's you, what's me? Which one is this? What let me unpack this messy middle and say, this one mine, this one yours, rather than saying everything is mine and it's all my fault. Okay, let's just unpack what's yours, what's mine, right? Yeah. I realized that I had this conversation and something shifted because I came out from this conversation. And it's a conversation that I've had very often with the same group of people. And I realized that this time it was different. When I came out from this conversation, I didn't feel erased. I When I was reflecting on it a few days later, I realized, hey, I haven't ruminated about this. I didn't ruminate about the conversation. I didn't go back and like fantasize how I could have done it better. What are the
Which
ways that,
you
oh, maybe
usually
they
do.
don't have it. Yeah.
Which you usually do.
Which I usually do, which I really usually do, right? And I actually, when I thought about the conversation, I liked how I showed up for myself. And I liked how I showed up for them. It wasn't just about showing up for me alone, but I also liked how I responded to them, how I responded rather than reacted to what was being said, right? And it wasn't because these people had changed. It was because my mindset changed. The I entered into the conversation without carrying this invisible expectation that they needed to understand me or that they would give me psychological safety. I didn't go into this expecting them to give me psychological safety. I'm like, nope, I am responsible for my well being. I'm responsible for myself. If they can't provide the psychological safety for me, I know how to provide it for myself, and I will adapt and I will address the situation as it goes. But I'm not putting my psychological safety in their hands and waiting for them to become the kind of people that I need, right? I am going to be the person that I need for myself, and I'm going to address the situation as it comes along. I'm not waiting for anyone's approval. I'm not waiting for their approval to treat myself with respect and care. And it's not to say that, oh, they're bad people. They're not. Sometimes people are just not your kind of people.
And so you were expecting them to treat you one way, like you were expecting them to treat you one way, but they, but you've changed that, but they never changed. But then because you've changed your perspective, they were still treating you the same way that they always do, but you were okay with that?
I was okay with that. I was okay with that because I no longer give them the responsibility. Yeah, I don't make them responsible for my well-being. I'm responsible for my own well-being. And even if it means like, how am I going to address this? Do I walk away? Do I speak up? How do I speak up? Whatever it is, it's no longer a question of how do I shape shift so that you will like me and say the things that you need to say to make me feel safe with you. It's, you know what, if I don't feel safe with you, that's fine. I'll make my own bubble of safety here so that I can still be in a conversation with you and still have a bubble of safety. That's fine. And this bubble does not require you to build it. I'm building it for myself. Because sometimes people are just not aligned that way. Or maybe they just don't have the capacity at the moment to behave a certain way or to rise up to the occasion. They just don't have the skill, maybe. Who knows, right? Not up to me. Nobody invited me to be their life coach. So whatever, they be them, whatever, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter to me. It just means, you know what? We are just not going to have that kind of emotional connection that I used to long for. And that's okay. We're just not going to have that kind of emotional connection. But what it also means is I am certainly not giving them that kind of access or power for that kind of intimacy in my life where their perspectives and their validation can make or break me.
And I suppose like what you're saying, that yes, and I loved your example because it really is trying to encapsulate what I'm trying to say about this whole it's not you, it's me. But obviously there was a lot of work and groundwork that you had to do beforehand for you to arrive at that situation, at
Wow.
that stage.
Yes. Yes. Because the faith who showed up in that conversation, that was a faith. That is a faith who is compassionate, who's curious, who's very clear about her worth. That's a faith who's very clear that her abilities are not contingent on how much you like her, how much you value her. No, that shift is understanding what's mine to own, what's mine to carry, what's not mine, that's yours. That's yours to carry. That's your thing. And that changed the way I showed up for myself, and changed the way I showed up for them also. Because I wasn't angry at them. I wasn't upset at them like, you have failed in this. Why can't you be more empathetic? Why can't you be more understanding? Why can't you be more curious? Why can't you be more? No, it's like, you know what? You do you. Oh, okay. No empathy here. That's okay. I'm going to adjust. And
I
like you
can't
said
change
earlier,
you.
right? Yes, sometimes distance. Okay, taking a step back now, taking a psychological step back now. You know? Yeah.
I can't change you, but I can change myself and my location.
Yes. Even if not physically, psychologically,
Yeah.
emotionally. Yes. Yeah.
Well, obviously there's a lot of nuance, and I'll admit it. I've got a lot of blind spots when it comes to this it's not you, it's me concept. It works, as I can hear from your example and as well as how it's worked in my life, but I also know that there's a lot of blind spots. I guess to the Life in the Grey community, what I want to know is, what do you think of this strategy? What else should I be thinking about? Or perhaps it's something that you've been doing yourself. I would love to hear how it has worked for you and what caveats and what safeguards you've put in place. Share your thoughts in the comments or reach out to us by emailing hello@momsatthetable.com. Live in the Grey is a Moms at the Table podcast, and let's continue the conversation.
Hey, this is Faye.
And I'm Melody.
We have a free digital 5-day self-compassion challenge just for you.
If you like a copy, simply comment with the word life now. That's LIFE.